everybody, I'm Georgeryals at Last Chance Archery. It's time for another thing a week. Today, I'm going to show you one of my favorite pieces of arrow magic. But first, if you go to improvemyarchery.com, you can look at my schedule, pick a date that makes sense, and you can get lessons from me. Improvemyarchery.com. I do them remote via Zoom, or you can come into my archery store in Snellville, Georgia, and have your lesson in person there. So if you want to take lessons from me, go to improvemyarchery.com. So here we go. What I'm going to show you is how to find the node of an arrow. So why is the node of the arrow important? Well, I've discovered that if you position the node of the arrow on the arrow rest, you get a little bit more consistent departure of the arrow off of the blade. If you're using a fixed blade arrow rest, the node really makes sense and it really shows a difference. But on a fall away rest, not so much, because fall away leaves fairly soon, but it's still worth it. I can tell a difference in my groups, even with a fall away rest, if I make sure that the node is on my arrow rest. So let me show you two different ways that you can find the node. The coolest way is if you hold the nock in your fingers like this, and then when I tap, I feel a vibration go up the shaft that I can feel here, kind of like I'm fishing and I'm kind of getting a nibble here. That's kind of what I got going on. And I carefully inch up the shaft and I'll hit a point right there. The vibration doesn't travel up the shaft. It's totally dead right there. And as I continue, the vibration comes back. So I'll back up and I'll see right here, right? So it's totally dead right here in this spot. So I'm going to mark this with a marker. Okay. So I've got that marked with the marker, and let me show you what it does. Here's the second way you can find your node. Hold the arrow by the nock and just put it on something. I'm using the Revolution saw, and I'm just going to put it on the equipment holder right here. And then I can just pluck the center of the shaft, and you see the shaft bounces when I pluck it. So if you cut your arrow rest right to the blade, when the bow pushes the arrow, that's what you're going to get, okay? Now watch, as I inch that point up, you'll see it gets a little less until I get right there and it doesn't bounce at all. And then if I continue, it'll start to bounce again. So right there is the node of the arrow, and I'll get the cleanest departure off of the arrow rest. And if you're using a blade rest, the compression strength of your blade isn't as important as it would be if you were cutting it to support here. So you can find the node just by sliding a point into the shaft and doing a test without gluing the point. And you see this is about 2.5 inches or so from behind the point. So if I want to take a brand new set of arrows and I want to cut them to so that my arrow is supported by the blade at the node, I'll just draw the arrow back, the uncut arrow back, and then mark it where my blade touches and add 2.5 inches, because I know that the node is 2.5 inches behind the point. And for those of you who are saying, well, what if I cut the arrow? If you cut the arrow, the node will still be 2.5 inches behind the point unless you cut it to 22 inches or something. But the normal arrow cutting lengths for normal draw lengths, this works perfectly down to 25, 26 inches. So positioning the node on your blade makes your setup a lot more forgiving to shooter mistakes, blade pressure, that sort of thing. So this is a worthwhile thing to pay attention to if you're using light carbon arrows for outdoor shooting or bow hunting.